Hi, Skin Flint here. I was born in the 1950s and I've been riding motorcycles for almost 50 years. I've owned over 35 motorcycles, 14 of which have been Triumphs. My mantra has always been maximum enjoyment for minimum expenditure. I'm happy to be able to share many of the tips and tricks that I've learned along my journey. Been having an issue with my Triumph 1200 Speed Quattro. Bike was running perfectly when it was warm, but it was a pig to start, and on the choke it ran terribly. Once it was warmed up, as I say, it was really nice and I was more than happy with it. But that caused me to investigate. So what I'm going to tell you now relates to the BST 36 carburetors. Now these carburetors were fitted to all the 4-cylinder early Hinkleys and the early triples, not all the triples, but the early ones. So if you have BST 36 Mikunis instead of the K-ins that came later, this may well relate to any cold start issues you've got. Because the bike was running so badly on the choke, I had to take the carbs off. Took the carbs off one night after tea and found in the float bowls 2 tiny little jets. And I found that the jets had come out of the float arrangement. The plastic floats would hang in a plastic cage, and this plastic cage is also the pickup for the choke mechanism, where the choke gets its fuel from.
Now, for those who don't know their way around these carburetors, this here is the float arrangement, which just clips in like so, and the bolt sits on there.
These little brass jets are shrunk into the plastic of the float cage arrangement.
Now what I never realized, and probably a lot of people didn't, going back to this here, that sits on top of there and feeds the choke, and it feeds it down here. So when this is inverted, that sits in the bowl. Whoop, it fits in the bowl, sucks up petrol through there and feeds the choke mechanism. But unbeknown to me, I never realized it, and you won't find it on the Triumph drawings for the spare parts. There's a jet in here. I hope you can see it. And the purpose of that jet is to reduce the flow, because as you can see it goes from a big orifice to a little one. If that jet were missing, then what would happen is that this carburetor would be grossly over carbureting.
I sought some advice on Facebook on the various groups, and I had I was told by one chap, just press them back in and put it back together, it'll be fine. I did that, and it ran beautifully. The chokes worked fine for about a week, and then it started to run like a pig again, and I guessed as much. The jets had come out of the plastic cages again. So seeking more advice on the internet, on a forum, somebody said, oh, just replace the cages. Well, they're £48 each, and they're all prone to fall out. Well, 2 of them had fallen out, so the other 2 are likely to at some time. So I wasn't going to replace 4 cages at nearly £200. So I started looking around for glue, a glue that would glue them into the plastic. And then I decided, I thought about it for a while. I couldn't come up with a glue anyway. Lots of glues I could try, but they would probably dissolve in petrol. So what I decided to do was get a sharp prod with a point on it, warm that up on the stove, push the jets back into the plastic, and then press the hot probe into the plastic behind the jets, just enough so that it didn't affect the flow of fuel through the jet, but was enough to stop the jet from coming back out. And that's what I did. So it's a common fault. If you're having problems with your cold running, with your choke on your BST Mikuni equipped Triumph, this may well help you out.
So this is the problem. As I suspected, this is the choke jet. As you can see, let me just and that fits in the in this orifice up here. There we are, you can see it there now above the float. So I've just taken all four out of the bike because only one of them had dropped its jet again, but rather than put up with this again, I'm going to seal them in. So those three I've actually done with this probe, heated up to red hot, and just put a little spot either side of it just to stop, just to pick up the plastic either side of the jet, behind the jet, to stop the jet from working its way out. I'm confident that it won't happen again. Right, this is the jet in question, and there's the orifice that it's got to go in. So I put it in loose. You can see it in there now. We push the jet in fully. There we are, that's where it should go. Warm the gas up. Heat this probe till the tip is just glowing red. And being very careful not to do anything that behind the jet that's going to restrict the petrol flow. We just push the probe into the plastic to stop the jet from coming back out. So there we go, that should be hot enough. So that's that one, that one. Bearing in mind this one's already fallen out, I'll do it in 4 places. There we go, I'm happy with that. The jet orifice hasn't been compromised, and there's no way that's coming out now. Very happy with that. There's a loose strand of plastic that's just dragged out of the jet holder. So there we are, job done. I'll put these back in the bike now, and Bob's your uncle. Well, I put the floats back in the carburetors, put the carbs back on the bike. It takes me 20 minutes to get the carbs off, and probably the best part of an hour to put them back on. It's a longer process. And the bike has been fine. I've done a couple of 100 miles since, and no issues. Bike's running like a dream again. One thing I did discover, I've had a lot of spitting and popping on the overrun, which I would still have, which is basically down to the exhausts that are on it don't provide enough back pressure. That was my thought anyway. And I've proved that now by stuffing stainless steel pan scourers into both exhaust pipes, and the bike runs so much smoother. So I've ordered some baffles from China. I think they were £3 each, and they should be here by the end of next week, and I'll put them in. At the moment I'm running around with pan scourers in the tail pipes, and as long as I don't go too fast, they won't blow out. So there's another tip for you. If you think you're having issues with, particularly on the overrun, with popping and banging, I know a lot of people like that. Often you get that with aftermarket exhausts, and people say they love the popping and the banging. I don't know why, because that popping and banging is making the bike run rough on the overrun. That relates to snatching the chain as it's doing it. So anyway, I proved that I need more back pressure. I'm putting baffles in, and the bike is almost where I need it to be. One issue is I sorted the forks out with much lighter fork oil, and wouldn't you know it, after doing a lot of work on the forks 2 weeks ago, they're now, or one of them is now leaking, so I've got to change the fork seals, but that's no big issue. The BMW that I've got, the R1100S, that's in need of a little work. The couple of the pivot bearings on the final drive unit, the final drive has to tilt this way in line with the bike as the bike is riding, and there are 2 bearings and they are shot basically, so they need changing. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to find that the shaft drive, the shaft is unphased, which will cause some vibration as well. So hopefully when I take it apart, that will be my vibration issue, and I should be able to put that right. So I hope I haven't bored you to death. My aim is to save people money, and
I hope this dodge has been of some use to you.